Hey everybody, welcome to the Book Nook. Today we're going to be doing my June wrap-up. I can't believe June is freaking over. Summer just came like barreling in there. Oh my goodness. In the month of June, I read 7 books. One of them was really big, so whenever I hit a big books, it usually slows me down quite considerably. So the first one I read was The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, and it is a gothic horror. It's about this haunted house, per se, and this woman, Beatrice, she ends up marrying this rich man, and he takes her to his hacienda, and from the moment that they step over the threshold, she's like, something is not right here. I think this house wants to kill me. And this was such a good read. I really liked it. If you like haunted house stories, it's fantastic. I would say it's one of the hot reads of summer. The next book I read was The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. And oh my goodness, I freaking love that book too. It was a fantasy book. The setting's kind of like it's desert, basically, in the times when there were jinn in the world, and these are these magical creatures who can they can take on the form of humans or the form of animals. They can also possess humans, and the humans and the jinn do not like each other. The humans are trying to get rid of the jinn, and the jinns hate the humans for all these reasons. And basically it's the story of this woman named Luli, and she is known as the Midnight Merchant, and she gets herself into a bit of trouble when she saves the Sultan of the land's son and calls attention to herself. And because she deals in selling magical artifacts, the Sultan is like, hey, there's this artifact I want you to track down. He wants to track it down because he wants to use it to harness the power of this very powerful jinn so that he can eradicate the rest of the jinn. And she's like, she doesn't want to do it, but he's like, do it or die, yay. And so it's this crazy adventure. It's very magical. I believe it's the first in a trilogy. The first book ended on such a cliffhanger. I cannot wait till the next one. It was such a fun read. So the next book I read, I got an arc of Little Eve by Catriona Ward, and honestly, Catriona Ward is becoming one of my favorite authors. I never even knew about her before this year. She's amazing. Last House on Needless Street, Sundial, and now Little Eve. And Little Eve, when I first started reading it, I was like, oh, I don't think I like this. But I was wrong. I just didn't like the family because they were so twisted and disturbing and horrible, and it was so oh, and it's like, oh, the creepies, crawlies, what's wrong with these people kind of story. There's all kinds of weirdness happening. They're like this weird family that maybe they could almost be like a cult. Someone in the main town dies, chaos ensues, and it goes into the darkness and twistedness of this family and what happens to them, and just, it's such a weird and twisted story, but it was really good, and it comes out in October of this year. So if you like Catriona Ward, I highly recommend it. The next thing I read was, and this was the book that slowed me down, it was Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. And this book was kind of had a whole X-Men vibe going on. There's all these kids, and they have all these different special abilities. Some of them can heal, some of them work with dust, some can be invisible. They send out these detectives or these people to go and track these kids down to bring them back to this institute called the Cairndale Institute. But there's this evil man that's after them. You gotta watch out or he's gonna get them. And it goes into the whole story of how this evil man, why he's coming after these kids, and all this stuff that's happening. And like I said, very X-Men vibes. I enjoyed it. And it's funny when it ended. I didn't know, it ended on a super cliffhanger, and I was like, are they gonna have another book? Because I had no idea. But they are! And it comes out in 2023, so gotta wait a bit. This book I read a lot slower, and there's a lot of story in it. There's a freaking lot, and so it slowed me down. I don't know. I shouldn't feel any pressure that I have to read a certain amount of books, but I'm like, I guess seven's good. Seven's good. 7 is a good amount. The pressures of Booktube are real. Anyway. Yeah. So the next book that we read was Cult Classic by Sloane Crossley. And this book was super weird. And I love weird premises for books. It's about this woman. Her name is Lola. One night, she's out with her old coworkers, and she goes to buy a pack of smokes and runs into an old flame. You know, and that happens. These things do happen, whether we want them to or not. But then she runs into another ex-boyfriend, and then another one, and then it keeps happening, and she keeps running into them, and she's like, what the F is happening here? And then her friend takes her to this undisclosed location where she's like, are you kidnapping me? And she's like, no, we just want to talk to you about some stuff. And she takes her to this weird building that her former boss has taken over. And there's these people in these weird pajamas. And she's like, okay, wait. Are you guys in a cult? Because everyone's wearing the same matching pajamas. And it's just a little weird. So apparently, Lola is this experiment. And all these people in this place that her boss Clive has are like focusing all their energy on her to magnetize her, to draw like her old ex-boyfriends to her. And like, you know, it's kind of giving her some closure. And she's with this new guy who she's engaged to. And she's like, do I want to marry him? Do I want to stay with him? And like, it kind of like brings up all these revelations in her life. And basically like, the people that are doing this, Clive and her friend Vedas, Clive wants to like turn this into a business and do this for people, like provide them closure. But does it provide closure? Does it help anything? Does it exacerbate it? Does it make it worse? Cult Classic. It's what's for dinner or not. I really liked this book. I read it in a day. It was a fun read. It does, you know, reading about this woman with all like the different types of relationships she was in, the different type of people she dated, you know, you start thinking about your exes of times past. So read at your own risk, but I thought it was pretty good. And then the next book I read, this one I read in a couple hours. It was a short novella, Below by Laurel Hightower. I cannot recommend this enough if you like horror. And it has my favorite cryptid in it. I love Mothman. He's my favorite. So it takes place in West Virginia. I've actually visited Point Pleasant in West Virginia, and I've been to the Mothman Museum. And so how could I not get this book? And Laurel Hightower is awesome. This story is awesome. It's like a nonstop thrill ride, and it's scary and it's weird, and I really, really enjoyed it. This woman, like, she's driving through West Virginia. There's a snowstorm. And basically what happens is they see this creature that's got these red glowing eyes and these big leathery wings, and they're crossing over a bridge, and she's following behind this semi-truck, and the semi-truck jackknifes and goes over the side, and then her car stops working. It shorts out, there are electrical difficulties, and it's weird. Then she has to decide, okay, is she gonna go try to help this truck driver, just leave him there, and what happens after. And it's freaking weird as crap, and I loved it. Below by Laurel Hightower. And then the last one that I read and finished, which is Buddy Raid I'm doing with David's book reviews, and that was Blood of Elves in the Witcher series. Now, the last book I read before this one, The Sword of Destiny, it was blarg. This one I actually liked because I felt like it had a story and it was going somewhere, and there wasn't all the ridiculous boob groping that was in the one prior to this. So I like this one quite a bit. You get into more of the story of Ciri and Geralt and Ciri's training as she's coming up and becoming the witchy woman that she is destined to be. And this was actually really good. So I really like this one. I look forward to the next one. If you guys are interested in any of these books, I will have links down below. They are affiliate links, so a little bit goes to me, but then it also goes to indie bookstores, which you can choose which ones you want it to go to, which is pretty cool. So thank you so much for joining me today in the Book Nook. If you had fun hanging out, poop that like button. Come back and see me again, and then we'll talk about more books and weird stuff and I'll ramble on. And so until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.